Welcome back to another episode of the Block Runner Podcast. I'm your host, William, always here with your co-host, Iman.
What's going on, dude?
And on the sticks, we got TJ.
Hello.
All right, so we're going to do this one a little bit different, guys.
Yeah, we're actually coming prepared with things to talk about. Right? That's the different you mean?
Yeah, so that's different. And so this would have been a like 2 20-minute videos.
Yeah.
But we're going to knock this out in a podcast. And
Why did you make that executive decision, dude? It's like I'm like over here putting together content for, you're like, nah, let's just not do that.
Well, I guess we have work to do, dude. That's why.
Apparently. Yeah, it's one of those times, dude. We gotta like switch hats for a bit, right? Because as some of you guys, most of you probably know, it's like we live dual lives. Actually, tri-lives.
Tri-lives?
Yeah, there's like our normal
personal
life.
lives?
Yeah, you know, kids and shit.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
There's that. That. That's like the minority of our time allocation, most likely.
Unfortunately,
right? Unfortunately. Then there's like the content side of things where we're like, trying our best to replicate AI XPT's usefulness and like understanding the market, and we're
still beating AI XPT.
I don't know.
Man.
Trading numbers.
Apparently, they tell us that we move numbers. I haven't seen AI XPT move numbers.
I have. He's been at least like during the days of his like
the heyday.
Yeah, where
which was like 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was like 2 weeks to a month where people were literally just aping into whatever he was suggesting, which is most of everything, right? Yeah. People figured out he's just overly bullish on most things.
Yeah.
You know, so
yeah,
he kind of lost his steam there. But yeah, the content side of things, we try our best to package that up for everybody. And then the third hat is the builder side of things.
Yeah, we build stuff.
And we built a lot of stuff over the years, dude.
Yeah,
quite a bit. You know, if you're talking 5-6 years ago, we started building Metaverse things.
Yeah.
And then we built like, what we thought was a pretty cool project, which is like a very early iteration of like an AI agent project. If you really think about it, called Rovies.
As soon as OpenAI released APIs for GPT-3, we were using them.
Yeah, I remember those days. Yeah, so we literally deployed like the first interface to communicate with AI with like a personalized character in the metaverse space, right? There were little robots.
Yeah, Rovies.
Little robotlings that you owned as NFTs and you could deploy within this virtual ecosystem called Decentraland, right? And they were there. They're still there, actually. If you go and log into Decentraland, you find these parcels that have these applications installed that we developed and distributed through our platform called MetaZone.
Mm-hmm.
It's all there, right? So that's all the core technology we worked on back in those days.
Yeah.
And then we're like, you know what? Bitcoin could use our help.
Yeah.
Right? For whatever
reason.
And
we found Bitcoin pretty early. Well, Bitcoin ordinals specifically.
Correct.
Not Bitcoin itself. Like
Bitcoin needs nobody's help, dude. Michael Saylor is just going to like get loans from the earth.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah.
Not just him anymore. It's like him and 100 other companies.
Correct. Yeah.
And they're just going to buy Bitcoin forever and price will never go down, right?
That seems to be what's happening.
That's the strategy.
Yeah. It's called the strategy.
Strategy B.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That is the strategy. And you got to convince many more companies to fall in line, right? Apparently Microsoft is like fading.
Completely fading it. Because they're not on a need to know basis. They're so that's what he calls it, a need to know. It's like if you're one of the top 7 companies, the top 7 companies aren't buying Bitcoin. They're like, we're better than everybody. We don't need we don't need a parachute. What are you talking about?
Right. So he's more so scooping up these like trench companies that are like struggling, right? Like GameStop.
Yeah, in his perspective, every single company is struggling except the top 7.
He's probably right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like they're over there just scooping up the world, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And putting the world out of business with AI and automation and tools.
Exactly.
Like that.
He says AI is not going to help any other company other than the top 7.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? So we literally have a tech oligopoly here or whatever.
Yep, it's here.
It's already here.
Yeah.
And so all these other struggling companies, like, what are you going to do to like, keep your profitabilities afloat?
And you know what's crazy to me is that, this strategy, first of all, it is crazy.
Yeah.
But what's even more crazier is that it could work.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that Bitcoin, even has worked to this point, right? Where we have countries supporting it.
Yeah, and by the way, as of this morning, Bitcoin's at 100,000. Again.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
It's not like the first time it happened or anything. It doesn't have the same like.
Yeah, it doesn't have the same.
We were there splash. Like just paying, like waiting by the fucking Bitcoin clock we have downstairs or whatever.
We did, yeah. We're like praying to it. We're like,
it's like please, because it was like teasing for like a couple weeks.
It was, yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't have the same. It's amazing, right?
Splash, yeah.
It's like 100K and it feels kind of lame out there.
Yeah, everyone's still sad.
It's pretty sad still, right? But there's reasons not to be sad. It's just you got to really look for them.
Yeah,
those hidden nuggets of beacons of hope, right? They do exist, and there's still a lot of opportunity like on the horizon for sure.
Yeah, so we have companies buying Bitcoin. So there's about 70 or so buying them right now, and Michael Saylor just put out that he thinks that in a year there's going to be 700 companies buying Bitcoin.
I believe it. Yeah, I think that will probably be the running narrative of this cycle, right? That's going to keep the bullish momentum for Bitcoin itself. Like, you know, last cycle was essentially just a couple of actors, right? Elon Musk and Michael Saylor.
Mm-hmm.
That was really enough to kind of like get the price where it needed to go.
Yeah.
This time, you know, I think a lot of companies are going to buy into this strategy, and just because it's working, like the market, this is like a new thing for the market to interpret, and therefore give accredited valuation to these companies as a result. So it's like others will see this working, they'll pile in, it's going to create a snowball effect.
Yeah, there's an additional kind of like regulatory uplift that happened recently where companies can now use digital assets as their bottom line like value. Right? They couldn't do that before. And so yeah, if you have Bitcoin in your treasury, now it's like accounted for in the books.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty powerful. So we should see like a micro cap stock bubble around all these different like digital asset.
Yeah, ultimately what this does is it correlates the stock value of a company to Bitcoin. So when Bitcoin goes up, the stock value goes up, and that's that. So theoretically, if Bitcoin keeps going up, just stock value theoretically would just keep going up.
Yeah, but that's I think flawed. I think it only works for the now because again, it's interpreted as like a new addition to like a company's portfolio of value production, I guess, right? Part of a company's value is its treasury management, but most of its value is its actual
earnings.
Output. Yeah, it's actual output and earnings as a company, right? So
yeah,
eventually the market's gonna like recover from this euphoria and this like, you know, Kool-Aid sesh, and just digital commodities or whatever part of your portfolio is just gonna be like thought of as like, you know, like regular additions.
Yeah, but there would be a floor to it, right? So it's like if you hold thousands and thousands of Bitcoin for your arbitrary company that does like random things, your floor price of your stock has like a minimum value, right? It would because you're holding a bunch of Bitcoin. So maybe that's what it does. It doesn't have like an infinite value upside like Bitcoin does, but it has like a floor value minimum.
Yeah.
It could. I mean,
yeah, I don't know. It's just that's all going to seem rosy and peachy on the way up, but on the way down, a lot of these companies will probably do this like improperly and over leverage themselves. And like, so whenever Bitcoin inevitably crashes, you're going to see a lot of these companies go bankrupt and default on their loans. It's going to look very ugly.
Yeah, a lot of it does depend on the companies generating revenue to pay for the loan.
Yeah, that's what I mean. A lot of them are just going to ape in, probably not.
Yeah.
Because they're on survival mode anyways, right? So maybe it's just like a short term, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like this strategy, it is different than just like naming your company, you know, Coca-Cola blockchain. Like,
yeah, we saw that in 2017.
Yeah, this is fundamentally different, right? There's real assets under play here rather than just like a branding.
Yeah. I'm not saying like every company that does this is going to fail. It's just...
there's a right way to do it and a wrong way. I mean, maybe Michael Saylor is definitely over leveraged here, but the crazy thing is that it could work.
Yeah.
Still work.
Yeah.
So then that's Bitcoin. And then, so we created M-Scribe, and that was focused on ordinals and inscriptions through DMT, digital matter theory.
Yeah. That was quite the rollout. We had to completely like reshift our understandings of development in context of Web3. Before it was smart contracts on Ethereum.
Yeah, we had to learn like the interworkings of Bitcoin, which we didn't have to before.
Yeah, I didn't even know there were any, to be honest.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything really about Bitcoin outside of, the Bitcoin.
Yeah, we had to learn what unspent transaction outputs were, witness data fields,
all the fields, really.
OpReturn, all this like stuff we didn't even know was really in the mix here.
Yeah, so kudos to our devs for figuring out all those complexities, so that we can contribute and participate in, these beginning stages of this Bitcoin ecosystem, which is nowhere near like in its maturity state.
Yeah, when we jumped into ordinals, it was at a point where there was nothing to suggest this was a good idea.
Yeah.
And the only thing that to suggest it was a good idea was like, it's Bitcoin. Like, how could you fade it when there's stuff happening on it?
Yeah. The idea that we can create assets, through Bitcoin was interesting, to say the least. It's like it was worth a dabble. But yeah, Bitmap was definitely that inflection point for us as like a development team, right? Because we came into the situation already with
like metaverse lenses.
Yeah, metaverse lenses on the whole thing. So we're looking for the right opportunity to contribute on like, a specialty of within our own lane, right?
Yeah.
And Bitmap was it. So yeah, that's what spawned M-Scribe and, being able to put out like one of the first servicing platforms for things like parceling, and eventually ended up becoming like a full stack for the metaverse rendering of things with BitmapOS. Like now people who own bitmaps can deploy their entire environment and do all the parceling you need and distribute those, actually raise funds if needed to actually build out some type of ecosystem.
That's right.
And there's still more work to be done on that front.
Yeah. The one thing that is very clear once you become a builder is that you're never done.
Yeah, no, it just keeps getting more. Yeah, once you get to the granular stuff, like, you just want to keep improving on the product, right?
Yeah, and not only that, if you're introducing some innovative component to it, you're almost infinitely never done.
Yeah, because that introduces a whole new set of requirements, right? Like adoption, friction, like industry rails that don't support what it is you're building, right? So we've dealt with that with DMT specifically, right?
Yeah.
The NAT token, UNATs are a little bit more infrastructure compatible, right? I mean, they're
ordinals.
Yeah. Yeah, so Magic Eden, you can get them there.
That's right. That's right.
But things like the fungible tokens of NAT itself and the tap tokens, it's a little bit more difficult to get these things integrated to centralized exchanges.
Yeah, right? And that's just talking about like a meta protocol, like awareness, but that doesn't include the fact that, there's political kind of red tape every now and then. Every step you take, there's like, you step on a mine that like pisses off some sort of like cabal group, and then all of a sudden you're ignored.
That's true.
Or, let's say just exchanges like pick a side, like let's say BRC20 or Unisat or whatever, and then, if you're not on that side, they just like ignore you.
Yeah, it's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
It's per the nature of how this Bitcoin ecosystem, like I guess, manifested, multiple different meta protocol attempts, a little bit, stratified a bit, like not just the liquidity, but again, like it fostered this tribal competitiveness, which manifested into a very toxic environment for I think a lot of people would agree with, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Pretty toxic out there on the timeline. But it's not just exclusive to the Bitcoin ordinals ecosystem. Like everyone's pretty damn toxic.
Yeah, it's not even exclusive to Web3.
That's true. That's just Twitter. That is the platform of X.
Yeah, right? that is what you do.
Yeah, you get like too many people in the room, I guess, and you remove all physical consequences.
That's right.
It's like you just have free reign.
All of a sudden, your muscles don't matter on Twitter.
Yeah, you have free reign to just be an asshole, right?
Yeah.
But put everyone in an actual room.
Yeah,
a lot of those voices quiet down to a wide margin.
Yeah.
Right? You're not saying those things anymore, right?
Yeah.
So that's what the internet has done. It's made it's emboldened us,
Yeah.
to
Falsified boldness.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So so that was M-Scribe. Have we missed anything in the timeline?
M-Scribe, BitmapOS.
I think that's it, right?
I was about to leak the new thing, but I can't do that yet.
The new thing.
But there's new things.
God damn it, dude.
Cooking.
Yeah.
I know, right? New things cooking. That's part of the nature of building in this space. It's hard, guys, in Web3.
Yeah, adapt or die.
You have to adapt or die, but it's like, yeah, we're like comparing our lives as like Web3 developers to like Web2 devs, right? Because, you know.
Yeah, they have one chain to worry about, which is just the internet.
Exactly. Us Web3 devs, it's like the internet. One internet will literally go offline, you know.
That's right.
And then like, you know, some other internet just like people just stop caring about it.
Yeah.
And then there's all of a sudden hundreds of them you could choose from,
right?
You know, called L2s and L3s and more L1 internet layers, right? These blockchains. It's just it's way more difficult as opposed to being a Web2 dev where it's like, you know, you've got solid footings beneath you.
Yeah, right? You use HTTPS.
Yeah.
And
decades old protocols, right?
Yeah, there might be a competition between front ends like Vue.js and
yeah,
you know, like that's about it. Move, yeah.
Yeah, these different like coding rubrics, I guess, that I don't know.
But fundamentally it doesn't really change anything.
Yeah.
Like the user has a similar experience where you're using one front end or another.
Yeah, like the rails, the payment rails are all there. Stripe is like ubiquitous in all applications.
Yeah, they're accepting USDC now.
Right. So there's just so much less, I guess, consideration. Now you've got to do new things, right? Because the internet is a hyper saturated development environment, right? Meaning you actually have to like build some really novel shit.
Yeah, like sperm racing.
That's right. Nothing better than that, right? Or whatever, that cheating fucking AI that helps you cheat on your interviews. Stuff
correct.
Like that, right?
Yeah.
To capture the mind share there. So.
Yeah, really the mind share capture is a function of like how well you do your branding.
And like the usefulness of your product.
Yeah,
right?
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. But in some cases, branding, marketing is enough. But for like longevity, it's not just like a flash in the pan thing.
Yeah.
Product definitely matters, but marketing gets, you know, the eyeballs in the door or the feet through the door, right? To at least like give you an opportunity, give you a chance to like, you know, deliver on something. So yeah, in crypto and Web3, like again, the footings are not solid at all. It's actually a liquid like foundation, meaning like things change from cycle to cycle. Last cycle, Ethereum, everything was on Ethereum.
Yeah.
Including us.
Such a pain in the ass, dude.
Yeah, this cycle now Ethereum community is completely capitulating, and it's like there's no hope. It seems like
they're crashing out.
Yeah, it's a straight
confirm.
It's not just a developer thing. The price itself reflects that
sentiment.
The issue, the liquid state of the Ethereum layer, right? It used to be pretty solid footing. Like I want to stand on ETH.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, you couldn't, but now you can.
Yeah,
you could potentially be stepping into quicksand, dude, and like you're gonna die.
A quicksand in many ways. So if you're holding ETH, that's its own quicksand. But if you're building on ETH, the people just like went away. They went to some other internet.
Yeah, they went to some other solid footings grounds. Yeah, right. And that other solid footing is called Solana right now.
That's right.
Right. So devs are flocking in, rushing in, as they did last cycle to Ethereum. Right. It's like we want to build there because we don't want to drown. Right. I think that's pretty like
that's pretty fair.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assumption to make, right? So how these different like infrastructure footings change state, like that's what people are trying to figure out right now, right? Like how the hell did Ethereum lose its bleeding edge lead into like this development space of Web3 to something like Solana that a couple of years ago people regarded as like a complete failed chain associated to FTX.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's like there's no way this thing's going to recover, and somehow it did and achieved solid state matter in record time. Right? Yeah. It's fucking weird, dude.
It is weird. It's, man, if you're a dev in Web3, this is like the worst place to be. Literally the worst place.
Yeah, you have to so bad that you have to either kill yourself or fake killing yourself at this point.
Yeah,
Rip Zerebro.
Yeah, Zerebro, whether that guy actually killed himself or he faked it, like it's still bad news.
Yeah, I still don't know if anybody truly knows.
I don't know.
I think there's
either.
like people out there just peering through obituaries across the globe, trying to find.
I don't
Jeffy.
I don't think that once you die, an automatic obituary happens, right?
Well, your family. I don't know. Actually,
I don't think.
I think
so.
your family has to go like put these things out there.
Yeah, which
you don't have to.
You don't have to. So that's not a place for confirmation, right?
Well, still, like somebody had to have known this guy, like his teammates, perhaps.
Yeah, at least somebody on Twitter who's connected to this guy can
like come out and say, like, he's absolutely not dead.
Yeah, correct.
Dead. So guys, calm the hell down.
But then if he faked it, he could just tell all his buddies on Twitter, is like, don't say anything, but I'm still here.
That's true. I don't know. And then there's like weirdness for like after the reports of his death, it's like wallet activity, like some meme coin spawned around his death. And then apparently he was like making purchases and liquidations of that meme coin with his like tracked wallet and liquidating Zerebro tokens. So like, factor all that in, it definitely looks like a properly orchestrated exit,
Yeah. Yeah. And then, I guess we could go and verify that those are his real wallets and he's really purchasing, but just not
it's not worth
not that interested to see if this is fake or not.
Yeah, but like you said, either scenario, it's not good, right?
Yeah.
That really paints the picture. It's like, these young devs.
Yeah, he's like 20 something.
21, 22, right? Fresh out of college type shit. And it's like, hey, this AI agent stuff's pretty cool in crypto. It's like, let me throw my hat in the ring.
Yeah.
Here comes Zerebro, right? Cool name.
Yeah, it is
cool aesthetic. Cool mission, right? It's like, hey, we're trying
music, right?
Yeah, people like music. People like creativity and artistry. Like, I think people will vibe and resonate with like AI generated like albums and shit like that, right?
Yeah,
and like building like an AI framework for more of this type of shit, right? But
yeah.
Of course, it didn't matter what you were working on at that time. Like everything.
Yeah. Anything AI related and a token, it just went up at the time.
Yeah. So like, no matter what you were working on, it was going to come crashing down, and it all did. Right. And, it's when those things come crashing down, those are the moments that, make or break.
You really stare really hard at that gun. Just
God
looking at
damn,
it.
dude, that's fucking dark. Yeah, that's what that will tell you like whether or not you're cut out for this game or not.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm sure everybody like who's pursuing anything goes through these types of moments, right? But in crypto, they're definitely exaggerated.
Yeah.
More than it needs to be, right?
Yeah.
These pits and these troughs.
Yeah, well, I guess what I find interesting is that in any market, things go up and down, and specifically in Web3, things go up and down. But what's interesting is that when things go up, people tend to be happy. Mm-hmm. But as things go down, as they inevitably do, you have an equal amount of people, new entrants into the ecosystem that bought at the high valuation. Mm. Like it's a new group of people that are just like only mad.
Yeah.
And like that, it's been like that for the last 15 years in every scenario.
Right.
And people are still shocked.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess the ones who are shocked are like new entrants like this, this kid. That was his first introduction to the psychology at play here, right?
Yeah.
You come into it as like a new blood, fresh blood. Things are only going well for you. And then you don't mentally forecast or prepare for the downside, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's nobody's fault. I mean, we've been through cycles a couple of times now.
Yeah.
And when things are up, you're not necessarily thinking about like, exiting your positions when things are up. It's a weird phenomena.
Yeah, you don't want to, right? You build an affinity for this stuff. It's like because it becomes part of your like personalized
your identity.
Amalgamation of your identity. Yeah. It's like we did this. It's like, we were the ones early to the metaverse and NFTs, right? We were the ones at those discussions where there's like 10 of us contemplating or like postulating, well, when is the rest of the world gonna like really give a fuck about this stuff? And then the rest of the world did give a fuck, and then all of a sudden we're like standing tall, right?
Yeah, it's like, you see?
Yeah, told you, right?
Yeah,
it's one of those feelings, and then you don't want to admit, like at some point, this the music stops, and you're actually not as cool as you think you are. This is all very like
psychological,
normal, very normal human shit,
Yeah.
But you got to go through it to really experience it.
Yeah, and you have to go through it probably more than once to really learn from it.
I guess. Learning
on average,
meaning what? To me, the optimal it's more like to master it, not learn it. To master
it, for sure.
That's what I want to get to the point where I have mastered my own emotions.
Yeah,
that would be fucking amazing.
Yeah,
so where I know like what stage of everything that we're involved with, and like I could detach my emotions from it all.
Yeah, and it's not even recognizing the stages, because I think we've been pretty good at that. It's just actually hitting the execute button. That's where the difference lies.
Yeah, I remember like during the peak of this meme coin AI coin bubble. Yeah, basically the end of last year, we were like, we had like tinges of like we knew this was frothy already, right? I was putting out the tweets out there as like, typically I would be like saying this is the top, but there's that part of my brain that's telling me this is how it's supposed to be, right? This is new paradigm territory.
Yeah, because it was still like AI and Web3 combination was relatively early-ish.
Yeah.
Where it's like there's no way this thing is done after like 6 weeks.
Yeah, it's like AI is too big of a deal. Right?
Yeah.
This is like, again, new paradigm. Like it clicked in all of our brains. Like this is what we should all be striving to nurture at this point. So what you expect from that is like more innovation, like more developers show up.
Yeah.
More creation, more higher valuations, and like the whole sea just rises as a result of that, right?
Yeah.
We saw that with NFTs. It's like once NFTs started to like poke through the cracks of the zeitgeist with like, Beeple.
Yeah, Paris Hilton.
Hilton. Akon. You did an NFT thing?
I think so.
I thought you tried to create like a city.
It was a city, yeah.
Yeah, well, little moments like that, right? It's like, okay, clearly there's something here, so we need to nurture this NFT thing. And it lasted like almost an entire year.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, NFTs for PFPs and NFTs for games and NFTs in the metaverse. It just kept on reiterating itself.
Yeah, and at the time, everything is like, this is the new paradigm. Yeah. NFTs are here to stay.
Yeah.
And technically they are. It's just not in the same way.
Yeah, I mean, eventually, the music stops, I guess. People just lose interest or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's PFPs are not like the thing that they were.
Right. So, yeah. And so all this to say, the floor is liquid and the floor is lava. So we're going to take like a week off, probably at most just 1 week from the content side of things, to put on the what's it called, the builder hat.
Yep.
With a little bit of like Tom Brady juice.
Yeah, there's like 12 or 13 hats, dude. The builder has like several hats, but yeah.
But that one, we need to like really lock in on what it is that needs to be built, to satisfy our core missions in this whole thing. Because ever since the beginning, drawing all the way back to the Decentraland days, it's always been about supporting creators. Always.
Yep. It's never changed.
Yeah. The thing that's changed is the environment around us, right? So we, again, have to adapt to that.
Yeah. And that environment and, how it affects things is like we support creators. There was a way to do that in 2017. There was a way to do that in 2021, ICOs and then NFTs. And both of them had supporting the creators directly. Like you bought the ICO token, you basically gave them money. You bought the NFT, you gave them money. Mm-hmm. And this cycle, that doesn't work on average.
No.
Right. And so instead, what we're seeing are things like Pump.fun and like all these like launch pads. It's if the creator launches a token, the market cap starts at, $5,000, give or take. And then it gets bonded and it gets seeded on a DEX And the volume within that DEX, you have fees going to the creator. And that's how you support the creator.
Yeah.
So ultimately what that means is you have users who are supporting the creator in a way where they participate on the upside rather than buying a market cap that starts at, $15 million or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the difference between previous cycles and this one, as far as we can tell.
Yeah.
And our assessment of this has been corroborated by researchers in Web3. They're seeing the same thing.
Yeah. So that's always been our goal with like the channel and stuff, is to keep our finger on the pulse, basically do all the due diligence and research needed to know where the puck is moving, right? Like you said, 2017, the puck was all around ICOs. That is like the speculative vehicle that gave the market access to, which as a result, supported, a Cambrian explosion of creation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Without that,
a Cambrian explosion of websites, but mostly.
But still.
Yeah.
Without the ICO puck, we wouldn't have developed things like, the Metaverse, like, Decentraland was an ICO.
100%.
DeFi, most of them were ICOs.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Early NFT iterations,
Polygon.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Early L2 experimentation, ICO. So like you needed that combination of market speculation plus like the the direct of value to people at least attempting to create new value, right?
Yeah.
Of course, it gets co-opted by corrupted actors.
Sure.
They're just out there for, an extracting opportunity.
Yeah.
But still, you get the 1% that actually ends up doing some shit and changing some things.
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
So then the next cycle, like you're saying, it's the speculation was around like, what NFT can I buy? And then it worked. There's massive speculative momentum around that activity, but funding artists and creators and stuff down the line.
That's right.
Now we've got platforms and, active on-chain markets as a result of that. This cycle, like you're saying, it's all about the mimetic economy and value. That is the more speculative arena of today.
Yeah.
But there's absolutely no like real connection to real creators yet.
Yeah.
Like that's what's missing.
Yeah, that is weird. And I think the reason why NFTs had like a year of, let's say, runway in terms of like market awareness and I guess peak in the zeitgeist was because it was funding creators. Like the more that creators were funded, the more creators entered, and therefore like the cycle just had a long tail.
Correct.
Right now, memes don't have a long tail. It's just like it's a ticker, it's an image, and then it's like you're off to the races. And so there is no long tail there. It's a short tail.
Yeah, the whole AI spectrum of participants that kind of like jumped into the meme coin, really Pump.fun wave towards like the tail end of that. They were attempting to try and extract value out of that to fund their own efforts, right? But it's like in contention with itself, right? Because the only way to do that was to, have a supply that you allocated yourself. Well, not even allocated. You had to buy it.
Yeah.
During like you basically had to snipe your own token at launch.
Yeah, that's right.
And then in order for you to like convert that into, usable energy to support your creations and like develop useful agents, you got to dump that token. And therefore you're creating a cascade effect where you've all of a sudden killed your viability as a developer.
Yeah, that's why there's a meme out there that says the devs are selling. That means exit and sell your assets as well.
Yeah, so it's like it's a broken model. I mean, it works for meme coins, pure meme coins, but it doesn't work to actually support and sustain any real creation, right? And without that, you end up in a point of stagnation, which is where we're at. So, so yeah, it's like we've got to solve that. We see where the puck is, and we've got a whole ecosystem ready to go to start creating things, right? The DMT space. Right?
Yeah, that reminds us. So we developed M-Scribe, and then we launched DMT. And so that was another thing that's like really important. In the context of all of crypto, DMT is something like fundamentally new, which we mentioned several times. But in the Bitcoin ecosystem, like there is very minimal infrastructure to the likes that you can compare to Ethereum or Solana, where it's like everything is essentially frictionless and there's all kinds of like participants in the ecosystem and all that stuff. And so it's just not the same on Bitcoin, which you could argue that that sort of activity should be happening elsewhere, right? And so some have that position.
For sure. yeah, I mean, the whole OpReturn, thing kind of reflects that. So I guess, okay, yeah.
Yeah, what's the time, TJ?
We're about halfway through.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's jump into because we're speaking of the OpReturn stuff. Eventually we're gonna get to that. That debate, I guess, among the Bitcoiners.
Yeah, we can talk about some of these updates. So we have several tabs here. All of these will be in the description. But the one of the things that I guess we've talked about in the past too is the Pectra upgrade for Ethereum.
Yeah.
And this is a pretty big upgrade because it essentially makes the user experience on Ethereum significantly better. Mm-hmm. So your wallet essentially becomes a smart contract in a way, and you can do multiple functions in a single transaction with this Pectra upgrade that you cannot do like before.
Yeah.
And so the cool thing is that if you just have a MetaMask, like all this stuff just got updated. Mm-hmm. So you have like new capabilities without having to do anything. So that's what happened. So I think it's still up to the devs to actually use this functionality. So it's still yet to be seen exactly like what the feel is like.
I mean, it's a big upgrade, I guess, but I think the real big discussion topic here is really the elephant in the room. It's like, I guess Bankless here is calling it like a strategic pivot. Other people are labeling it as a reprioritization for the Ethereum Foundation. Over the last several years, Ethereum's like whole ethos has been around like erecting as many of these L2s as you can in order to scale, right? In order to have like consumer viability associated to the economic layer of Ethereum itself, some way, some shape or form, right? It's all that activity happening elsewhere, but it gets repackaged and rolled up into like these tiny little network validations, right? That, doesn't really contribute a whole bunch.
You can argue that you probably don't need like 100 or 200 L2s for Ethereum.
Well, that might be like the I mean, it's like we don't know what the future. We don't know. Like right now, we only know the current state of how ETH is doing, and we see how the Ethereum community is responding. Right, clearly things aren't going well. And they need to make drastic changes, not just ethos changes, like ideological changes, like technical changes, even like revamping the entire maybe consensus model, all this stuff, right? Like these are not minor alterations.
Yeah. So some of the problems that you're describing is the underinvestment in L1 infrastructure, product mindset deficiency, leadership vacuum, ivory tower culture, L2 fragmentation.
Yeah.
And then the competitive urgency as a result of Solana basically taking Ethereum's lunch this cycle.
Yeah, I think. I mean, we've seen this happen in enterprise history, right? Before, where like somebody introduces something paradigm shifting to the planet. I don't know, Blockbuster, and like a new competitor arrives and does things better and completely swallows market share.
Yeah,
right? That could be Solana.
Yep,
Solana could be Netflix. We don't know yet Ethereum is Blockbuster or not, but that is the sense of urgency that I think the Ethereum collective needs to kind of approach this at,
Yeah, so much so that Vitalik is back at work.
Yeah, no longer,
Yeah, he's not
chasing women no more, right?
Or flying to different parts of the planet with his partner.
Yeah, I guess allegedly.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know if he's partnered up or not. Maybe he is. I don't know. But apparently he definitely wasn't like locked in and focused on this stuff, because I think per the nature of like Web3 decentralization, at some point you want to like detach yourself from the DAO, you would say, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's the whole point of the DAO.
That's supposed to be like Bitcoin works without Satoshi's involvement anymore, right? So why couldn't Ethereum?
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, it's different chicken and egg, or apples and oranges, right?
Yeah. I every time I think about that analogy, I think about Steve Jobs. As soon as he left Apple, like Apple went down, and then he came back and then it came back, and then he died, and like to a certain degree, innovation kind of like died with him.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely sleeping at the AI wheel.
Sure. Yeah, they slept and crashed the car on the AI wheel.
Literally.
They're so behind on AI. It's pathetic.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's crazy that somehow slipped through.
Yeah, and they've been building Siri for like 15 years.
That's true. They were like the first company to kind of bring out like an AI.
Yeah, voice. Yeah.
Was that when Steve was around, Siri? Or no?
I think it was.
Are you sure? Let me.
Yeah, I think it was.
When was?
Yeah, when was Siri? So he died in 2011.
Siri was introduced in 2011.
So he definitely knew about it.
He definitely was part of the development of like, you know.
Yeah, it makes sense because the Macintosh Lisa, you know, had like personality. And it had like hello, and like I think it even spoke too.
Oh yeah, you're talking like that 1984 like unveil.
Yeah.
1986, whatever. Where it's like you like pulled this toaster out of a bag, like laid it down.
Yeah.
And they just started saying like hello.
Yeah.
I don't know what it said. It's like
welcome to Mac or whatever.
It's something really
weird,
but revolutionary. So you're right. I think if he didn't die, he probably would have passed or maintained this lead as far as like,
it maintained the competitive urgency.
Right.
But he always had that. And so
that's true.
The competitive urgency in this case in terms of AI is understanding LLMs. Yeah. Like that was the thing that Apple missed.
Yeah.
They just like there's like an entire industry that just walked by Apple behind their back and just like dominated them.
Yeah, competitive urgency is important. I just listened to Tom Brady on the
I heard
the Logan Paul podcast, and that was one of his main tenets, right? TJ is like the competitive requirement, I guess, in order to, I guess, achieve what it is that he achieved. Like from a singular athletics perspective, it's like not only was he a great player, but he like maintained greatness.
It's true.
Longer than basically any other athlete, I would say. Right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's what I took from it, is just being an elite competitor.
Yeah, because with that elite competitiveness in mind, you don't get complacent.
You don't get complacent. Yeah,
it's like, oh, I won one, so it's like I could take my foot off the gas a bit.
Yeah,
fuck it, dude, I already won one.
See, that's the psychological effect of humans. It's like you win one, and it's like, oh, I can just
I could
ease off.
I can go to I could travel now.
Yeah,
and like
get a girlfriend and
the luxuries of life, right?
Yeah.
Actually like suckle on the nectar for a bit, right? But Tom Brady, he's like, nope, he got more, like he probably enjoyed himself less. He's like, I gotta like maintain my body here.
Yeah.
Right. So I think can't drink alcohol.
Not only did he maintain, he improved throughout the years. Yeah. He was a better athlete in his later years than he was in his early years.
He was pretty damn good, like all the way up to Tampa Bay. He was great. Yeah. So that's important.
He still looks great.
What is he, like 40?
47, I think.
Wow. Yeah, he probably could still play. I'm sure. I'm sure he could. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, taste the nectar, dude.
Yeah, but part of his like retirement was like, if I play one more year, which I could, but if I play, I might get so hurt that it's like all for nothing.
It's true. Yeah. At some point, physics comes in.
Yeah.
You just can't fight physics.
Yeah. Entropy is the mother.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, unfortunately, Ethereum, they lost that Tom Brady juice. Right?
Yeah.
And that happens in a lot of cases, like the BlackBerry story. Right?
Yep.
They didn't have the Tom Brady juice. Right.
Such a good movie.
Yeah. So Steve Jobs, that's why he's regarded as one of the greatest, like,
innovators. I did not think that there would be a better entrepreneur than Steve Jobs back in those days.
So then Elon's like Elon has trumped him. So
by far, it's not even close.
But I don't know if it's competitiveness for him.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it, dude.
No, it definitely doesn't. It's not the same.
Yeah, what is it?
I think he operates under first principles and like just solving problems, and like he was like, why aren't electric cars a thing? Like this doesn't make any sense. They're way better energy efficient and all this stuff. Like this doesn't make any sense. Like I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah, it's interesting. But still, I think there's also competitiveness tinged as well. Like that's why I think he's returning back to Tesla as his priority, right? After this Doge shit, because I think he sees like there's a lot more competition now than there used to be.
That's true. Yeah,
a lot. So I don't think if that company somehow becomes complacent, they could lose at some point.
Yeah, I think you need a Tom Brady, a Kobe, someone like Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, a part of the team regularly to keep everybody accountable and not get complacent. Because everyone else doesn't have the same drive as these 4 guys do.
Right.
So they'll just take off let the foot off the gas and like just chill mode.
Yeah, that was another thing he was talking about is like, especially later in his career when he's in the locker room, he's talking about like, all the young guys want to live up to Tom Brady's standards, and Tom Brady doesn't want to let these young guys down. So it's kind of like fire fueling other fire.
That's such a good point. Yeah, can you imagine 21-year-old kid go into New England, you see Tom Brady there, and you're like on a bench, and you just want to perform for the guy just because of how good he is.
Yeah.
And you don't want to let off.
Yeah, you don't want to be the guy that lets Tom Brady down, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to come in with that I guess already established like a lore. I mean that's part of being a leader, I guess, an effective leader. It's like it's a reciprocal thing. People have to like really believe in you, right?
Yeah.
Which Tom Brady, what better person to believe in? If I'm on that field, dude, it's like I want that guy to be like in that 2-minute scenario, right? Games on the line, Brady's at the helm. It's like I feel pretty good here. I feel like we got a pretty good shot.
Yeah, you have the feeling that you have a shot, but if he's throwing the ball to you, you have to like you have to like be.
You don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, you don't want to be that guy that drops the ball.
Yeah, that'd be pretty shitty. But yeah, that's so. Ethereum's dropping the ball right now. So Vitalik had to step back in, and people need to believe again, right? So back to this, it's like, all right, so Ethereum is kind of like the liquid environment there still being figured out to reestablish solidity state.
Yeah.
But on Solana, a pretty solid state, but here they are talking about like making major adjustments here to, I guess, accommodate something beyond and bigger than just like what is happening natively today, right?
Yeah. So they said they launched on March 2020, and they set out to have like a network that can support something like the New York Stock Exchange. And so here they're admitting that they have not succeeded in that goal. So they understand what they're trying to do, and they're trying to figure out a way to actually achieve it.
Yeah. So there's like, again, consensus discussions being had here, like even after. So this is good. Like this is a good indication from the Solana team. Like, they're experiencing wild success right now. Developers are building.
Yeah.
There's a lot of products on that chain getting a lot of traction, and they're not taking the foot off the gas. They've set their goals higher, right? It's like we need to get better even still. Right?
Yeah.
Because there's a bigger fish out there that we want to, bring into our base.
Yeah. Right? So DeFi pioneers Superstate to bring public equities to Solana.
Yeah. So it's already kind of working, I guess, right?
Yeah. So these guys Superstate, they could have chosen Ethereum, but they didn't.
I know. I know. That's what I mean. I mean, solid footings, dude.
Yeah.
People seeing that, and it's a real problem for Ethereum, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It goes back to like, if you're a builder, what are you going to do? Where are you going to build? Like
they might have fucked up with all these L2s actually. Like that might have actually been a bad.
Yeah. And that's a result of like an industry that supports like, oh, you want an L2 where here's a bunch of cash. Let's run it.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
So like that also contributed to the problem here.
Yeah. Like the investor VC cabal, they figured out along with the market makers, like there's an easy exploit here where we could just automatically get like, 10 billion FDV tokens to dump on retail. So let's just run this over and over and over and over again.
You know what would have made sense is Ethereum back in those days being like, okay, clearly, there's congestion in our L1 network. We should probably develop an L2 ourselves and do it right. Like continue like the reciprocal support on the L1 network, but do it right.
Yeah.
And like just do what we should have done, but let's do an L2. Yeah. Let's take what we learned from doing this and start implementing that stuff on L1. And like if someone wants to compete, let's let it, go ahead.
Yeah.
But this is our direction. We're going to try to like make it a better chain.
Yeah.
But had they done that, I feel like investors would have said, "Oh, you're doing an L2, you're going to compete with Ethereum. Probably not a good idea."
Yeah.
Maybe it really depends on like the ROI potential for an investor, because these L2s could launch tokens, and that's how they get their ROI.
Yeah. Well, regardless, so you got to pay attention to this stuff like intimately, so you can gauge again like the state of things.
Yeah.
Like all the way down to granular, like physics layer. Because that shit matters.
It's my favorite layer, dude.
Yeah, that's the result of that is going to be, where the future opportunity is going to come from, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so we're looking at the chart here for Pengu, and I guess the notable thing is it's up roughly 4x.
Yeah. Remember Pengu, dude?
I do remember Pengu.
So this is abstract. So another thing. So all these are like things that as we make our, content ghosting, where we're just not making content for however long that is, you guys should just kind of like keep your eyes on this stuff. Right?
Yeah, abstract.
So once we make our return, you're still locked in. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, so a project on abstract called Cambria, so they generated a total of 1.52 million in ETH, is ready to distribute to, what is it? Not stakers. The final season pool will be split to people playing the game that have silver balances, critical game exploits.
Play to earn game, dude.
Yeah, play to earn.
So participants, it's very reminiscent to Axie Infinity early days. So they have like a guild system. People can come in if you don't have like the capital to acquire the assets. That makes you competitive for this essentially a pretty scalable, pretty sizable airdrop of $1.5 million worth of value. You just come in and partake as if you were a scholar in Axie, right? And it's a nice reiteration of play to earn, but happening on abstract. So
yeah,
we made a video about this stuff a few weeks ago about like there seems to be like a gaming sentiment, like gaming ethos building around abstract, and that's what you need to see. It's like on all these different chains that exist, you've got to see evidences of something like that's festering natively to this chain that I guess stands out amongst the rest, right? So at the root of all that is community, right? Solana, the meme coin stuff, really cultivated killer community there. So an abstract potential for that can emerge from these types of reiterations on play to earn, right?
Yeah, so this is what that game looks like, Cambria.
Yeah, so we're going to have to go through these pretty quick now because we're running out of time.
All right, so having AI agents in games is one of the dumbest ideas ever created until you realize entertainment is what people really want, and that doesn't always mean that they want to engage with every mechanic in the game all the time. So back in the day, Axie Infinity employed this like concept called scholars, and you had people in different countries play the game on behalf of the owners of the assets.
Right.
And so in this cycle, presumably, it's not going to be like human beings at the helm here. It's going to be AI agents.
Yeah, at least fulfilling some of, like, as this guy's suggesting, the mundane tasks, right? In like an ecosystem. Like if you played an MMO, you understand what that means, right? It's like
grind.
Yeah, there's like a grindy aspect to your experience and your progression where it's like you have to just spend hours just killing these like little mobs to pick up the loot and like cash that in for real value that can be exchanged for like the shit you really need to get better, right?
Yeah.
So not everybody has that much time to allocate, so AI agents, they kind of like fit in perfectly to like support all that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so on another one here, I'm thinking about Big, somewhat that I'm thinking about Pump.fun if it had tokenized equity. At its core, what's been created by Satoshi Bigamoto is a unique launchpad system for new projects where the participants have opportunity costs. And so if you remember, the Big token was this mining game where you started out in a room and you bought a miner.
Yeah, different miners.
And then you can continuously upgrade to earn the Big token.
Yeah. So you look at the chart here. So that was pretty huge for like a week or two. But it's quite calmed down. But this one's interesting to pay attention to because, one of the novelties here is that mirror to Bitcoin's token emission schedule, but condensed to abstract speed of block production. So it's like roughly every 50 or 60 days or so. A halving will occur. So here we're like at day maybe 35 or 40 or something. How many days?
Yeah, it's been April 8th. That's when it launched, and we are May 5th, so not even a month. So 30 days.
Call it 30 days. So we're a little bit past the halfway point. So like in context of Bitcoin, this is like accumulation period.
Yeah.
And then as like the next halving approaches, typically that's when the price of Bitcoin starts to go up slowly. And then post-halvening was whenever you see like another banana curve. That's what we're all kind of waiting for here.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see if the same like market dynamics play out for something like this, right?
It would be interesting. So you're saying that this is like mimicking Bitcoin to a small extent, right? We got pennies in Bitcoin, then we had like $80, whatever it was, and then it dumped to like $1, and then it's like $1,000.
Yeah, if by this time next month we see Bitcoin like in the $100 regions, $100 plus, I would not stop. I would not fade it at that point, right? Meaning like the psychology, because we're seeing this play out also with Bittensor's Tau, right? Like it's working for Tau also, another Bitcoin forked economic model. This might just apply, like it might just be a cheat code for human psychology. We just can't resist ourselves, right?
Yeah, it could be.
And this is like a rapid iteration of that. So like by the end of this cycle, all these Bitcoins might be distributed. So maybe this is just an interesting new model to produce meme coins. And it deals with like, sniping issues and all this other stuff. So definitely keep your eyes on that. I will be.
Yeah. OpenAI CPO says he sees the future where AI agents use smart contracts to move their spending. Billions of new users are coming to Ethereum soon in the form of agents. So this is something that we predicted in the past too, is like we're going to foster this agentic economy, and all of a sudden we don't have 8 billion people participating in the economy. We have 30 billion through these AI agents.
Yeah, this guy is saying, the rails of blockchain and such, I guess, makes sense for agents. The programmability of the mechanism of smart contracts, like where you can have agents that have these conditional spends, right? Like I think there's a good marriage there between what we're seeing in Web 2 AI and what Web 3 can provide. So
yeah, not only that, you're not going to get an AI agent to get a bank account and facilitate transactions like that. It's not going to work.
Yeah, so there might be a perfect marriage here that's not obvious today. It's kind of like, but at some point might be very explosive, right? This is why you've got to keep paying attention to AI agent infra in the Web3 space, right?
Okay, and in other news, I found this to be one of the more interesting news updates. So we're excited to introduce X402, a new open source payments protocol built on HTTP rails. So there was a 402 internet protocol that was not leveraged for whatever reason, and now they're leveraging it in the context of USDC. And so we have like an internet native payment rails for crypto.
I see.
Yeah. So what does that mean? So ultimately what that means is merchants don't have to pay the 3% for the Visa and MasterCard rails. They can just accept USDC. And so they're just paying like the network fee, which is like pennies, right? And then on top of that, you are not required to have a minimum spend. On Visa and MasterCard, you essentially do. Otherwise, it cuts into your profits. And so you always require a minimum spend when using a Visa and MasterCard for your merchant account.
I see.
And so with this case, the minimum spend is like, 0.000001 penny, right? It doesn't matter.
So that changes like different like business models.
Exactly. Right? So now you can charge on a per API basis. And if people or devs who are using your API, they use it like a couple of times a month, they're not paying a subscription fee to your API access. Right. Instead, they're paying per API, which could be a few pennies a month.
I see.
And they're still profitable because, that's how the costs, right?
So this is huge for AI agents specifically.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, where you can have that nimbleness between different, MCP, I guess, connections and utilize those resources without, like you're saying, having to pay subscription costs for each individual one, right? You
that's right.
Just, use at will, pay at will.
Yeah. So we're up against the time here. Is there anything Should we go through all of these?
Why not, dude?
Okay.
So
we got, yeah, I guess
it's too late now, dude.
We got to go through it.
I mean,
yeah, let's just do it. So, all right. Wait, what's the actual like absolute time? All right, we got another 15 minutes before we actually have to cut it off.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to run through this quick. We got Virtuals Genesis launches. So this is leveraging the new point system that Virtuals launched. And what's interesting, we're going to show you here, is their fees. As soon as they made the switch to a new business model, their fees kind of evaporated.
Well, it was more a switch. Yeah, a switch to a new like launch mechanic, right?
Which resulted in a different business model.
Yeah, I guess it's like not an optimal one if you're part of the Virtuals team. So
yeah,
you have to consider that now if you're like a Virtuals participant, right? It's like, yeah, these new launch models, these new incentive loops or whatever that deal with things like sniping and such and create like fairer distributions. They might be good for like the token longevity and such, but the platform is not doing well as a result. So, there could be repercussions to that. So it's just something to factor in. It's just new like data, right? That changes the dynamics a bit, right? Because that's what everybody's trying to figure out, right? Across the entire spectrum it's a launch mechanism, like free territory. Pump.fun proved that the market likes to launch new assets, likes to issue new assets frequently, but there's a lot of problems that come with it. So now it's like it's free territory for somebody to come in, implement new solutions for more efficient launching of things.
Yeah.
Right. So these are very important data points that Virtual's doing. You got Boop.fun doing their own thing too. Right. So
yeah, I mean, I think would have been better is maintain the potential of this type of revenue, but cut a percentage of the revenue towards creators to get more creations happening.
Yeah, I think they've done that, but I don't think that like fully addresses the suite of issues they're trying to solve.
Yeah, right? It definitely does not, right? You still have sniping issues and all that stuff.
Yeah, so this is across the board a problem, right?
Okay, so we got Hustle MCP, your multi-channel market intelligence hub. So Agent Hustle.
We've talked to Jake in the interviews before.
Yeah.
So another AI agent, but there's an AI XBT integration here that I thought was interesting, which essentially now, the superpower of AI XBT is its social awareness, right? It knows what's going on in the crypto zeitgeist. So now I think Agent Hustle is equipped with this. I think that should improve its efficiency as far as like making good calls. Right here's like an 81x example of that. So
yeah, so this is an example like Cash, a verified 81x in 14 hours by Agent Hustle. And so Agent Hustle discovered Bitcoin early on. It went from 80,000 market cap to 6 million.
So this is good. This is more continual progress on. I mean, ultimately, this is like has to be the killer like product for an AI agent in the crypto space. If you have an agent that who just trades on your behalf and performs like that, I mean, that's pretty good. Like it's pretty bullish for this team, for the whole DAI space. So yeah, definitely keep looking into Agent Hustle and their development. I think I've heard Jake talk on some podcasts and stuff. They're integrating some new like tokenomics models and stuff.
Not only that, MCP as well.
Yeah. I think all that's part of that, and I think they want like people to start building, I think, their own agents as part of this stack. So
yeah,
it's a lot of interesting developments coming from that team.
Yeah. So here's a height of the market cap, 17 million, and right now is at 2.36. All right. So other news in Bitcoin, since we're posting old timer commentary on OpReturn, you might like the comment about putting non-Bitcoin data into the Bitcoin blockchain. So this is from Satoshi himself on Bitcoin Talk forums. It says piling every proof of work quorum system in the world into one dataset doesn't scale. Bitcoin and BitDNS can be used separately. So this was like, I guess, some sort of meta protocol that was happening at the time. And he was suggesting that this should run separately to Bitcoin. So users shouldn't have to download all of both to use one or the other. BitDNS users may not want to download everything the next several unrelated networks decide to pile in either. And so Satoshi essentially advocating for a separation of use cases.
So if you don't know why this is like contextually important, there's like it's been quite a ruffling of feathers in the Bitcoin space.
Yeah.
About this whole OpReturn limitation thing. So how do you interpret that?
Yeah. So just to paint the picture, if you guys, those of you listening, definitely watch the podcast on YouTube. But I'm looking at a picture here of like an example of an OpReturn. So the debate was some wanted to expand the minimum requirements of the OpReturn data field from 83 kilobytes. Yeah, 83 kilobytes to over 100.
Okay.
Right. And so what that allowed to do is add this kind of form of text. So create meta protocols on OpReturn, and that meta protocol
already exists,
OP20, in like the same day that they launched it.
Yeah, it's another JSON protocol, just like BRC20s or TAP or whatever, right?
Yeah, and so the debate is, let's expand it, because if we don't expand it, let's expand it because they're already quote unquote polluting the chain with arbitrary data anyways.
Yeah. So if you're a maxi, you hate the idea of that, and like any alteration to any opcode or whatever that encourages or fosters even more of this type of thing, even though it's in a different field.
And so they're saying, let's open it up so that we encourage them to use this field, which costs 4 times more than the witness data field of Bitcoin, which that's where all the ordinals exist. And maybe miners make potentially more money. And so there's like essentially 2 miners here that are generating revenue as a result of supporting this functionality, which went live like within the last day.
Yeah.
And it's Mara and potentially F2 Pool who are supporting this.
Yeah, Mononaut seems to think that there's, some benefits, I guess, just because of
so he's on the side of like, don't put spam on Bitcoin, and says compared to BRC20s, no data discount, so it's more expensive to use, so it's kind of better for the miners, no block size bloat, and no UTXO set pollution.
Yeah, so it's contentious. It's just, this is the norm in the Bitcoin ecosystem, right? Like just, some people are purists. They want to see Bitcoin only used as like digital money.
Yeah,
right?
Correct.
And any other like utilization of Bitcoin is essentially like a data layer, like a storage layer, like potentially ruffles the potential of that.
Yeah, and in my opinion, like right now, Bitcoin isn't what Satoshi wanted, according to his white paper. Bitcoin is not peer-to-peer cash.
No.
It has in my opinion, a higher calling, which is a store of value. But as a result, it conflicts with like the design of the whole network, which is based on transactions and its fees. And so if we have a store of value, we don't have transactions and therefore no long-term longevity for Bitcoin.
Right.
So this does present a big problem.
Yeah.
That many people aren't talking about.
Correct. Yeah, so the arguments and the people who are trying to leverage these arbitrary data injection points to produce like new vectors of value that can contribute on the fee front, right?
Yes.
Things like ordinals and now OP20 over here, right? So we've seen this happen before. So again, it's another thing to pay attention to. Who knows? Right now, this is pretty early, but here's CB Sphere saying some of these tokens that are being minted are actually generating an ROI, right?
Yeah, so each mint comes with 1,000 tokens, and 1,000 tokens is worth about $190 over the counter by Chinese participants.
Yeah, and they cost roughly $10 to mint those 1,000 tokens. So that's already like what, like a 20x?
20x, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm sure degens are going to hear about this,
mm-hmm.
and we could see something snowball from here, but probably nothing crazy, but maybe a short-term hype cycle around this stuff, just because there's a conversation brewing already.
Mm-hmm.
And degens are bored and they're looking for ROI, dude.
Yeah, they're looking for anything to like anything with volatility. That's what they want.
Yeah, anything to speculate with.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
All right, so another news Track Network, Peekaboo Hypermall. And so what you're looking at here is an image by Track. It says the price of GIB and the cost of TAP, and you're buying a total amount of GIB here and the accumulation of total GIBs I think.
Yeah. I mean, this is just literally a sneak peek, so we don't know the full grasp of what we're looking at here, but the point is Hypermall is right around the corner. Track Network has been...
Yeah, they should be launching on the 15th of May, so a couple of days from this podcast.
Yeah. So again, we'll be, with our builder hats on. So you guys will have to relay to us how everything is going.
Yeah.
With that initial launch, right?
Yeah. So upgrading of Track BRC20 token going strong. 30% of the total supply staked for upgrade. 11.25% APR today. Upgraded Track network. And the links will be, again, in the description. If you have Track and you haven't staked it, it's probably a good idea to do so since the Track token BRC20 version is not going to be supported.
Yeah. So we introed Track a couple years ago as BRC20s first originated. So
yeah, at a 200K market cap or whatever it was.
Yeah. So if you're still holding on to them, now is the time to wake up and pay attention again, because there's quite a transition happening.
Right? Yeah. So here's the chart here, but that's it for us. I appreciate you guys for sticking with us this long. We definitely spoke about a lot of things, our short history here, or long, depending on how you look at it.
It's pretty long.
And all the things that are happening in crypto, and this is just a snapshot of what we think is interesting, not necessarily everything that's going on in crypto.
Yeah.
But if you find something that you want us to talk about, please put it in the comment section below. Definitely hit us up on Twitter, join our Discords. A lot of stuff happening. I appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll catch you in the next podcast.
Peace.